issue here, there's enough of it, but I think it needs some more work. We're going to get into it across the short session. So I would entertain a motion at the table.
So moved.
Motion made, second, table the bill. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
No.
Okay. What's next? We got Delegate Watts. You've got 4. You ready? Oh, Delegate Miller, we can do yours while we're waiting.
2040.
And one we put over to the language. Is there a motion for the sub? All right. Substitute, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. So the substitute has been adopted. Any questions for the patron? It seems to be what we're trying to do, but staff is smarter than I am. All right. What do I want to do? This is the don't release. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. Okay. All right, Delegate Watts, tell us which one.
The first one I'd like to take up, please, is 2073.
2073.
2073. Okay, the problem, and as you know, I have been waiting for someone from either Ray Morrow who is Commonwealth Attorney of Fairfax County, or someone from his staff. I've had extensive the substitute, yes, please. Thank you. You adopt the substitute.
Delegate Watts moves that we adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye. Aye.
The issue goes back to 2011 when this committee, particularly the chairman, did really good work in trying to deal with the exploitation of incapacitated adults, particularly from those in a caretaker circumstance, which added 18.2.178.1. But at that time, my county was also very concerned about the door-to-door contractors who were attempting to exploit people who were intimidated or had other reasons for being pushed into a contract. That activity exists in a number of places in the Commonwealth, most recently reading about how much Giles County has done in trying to rein in this activity. The problem, Mr. Chairman, as you always like to have the problem, that's the underlying problem. The problem is that these cases are very hard to prosecute because the victim who is singled out because they may be getting confused for one reason or another. They may be frail as they age, and so by the time, and the activity, once they are fingered as someone who could be pushed into a contract through various means, their name is then sold to another contractor, or given to another contractor and another contractor. And by the time their circumstance is recognized, very often there's been a passage of time, their condition may have deteriorated. By the time law enforcement is able to work the case and get a good fact pattern and take it into court, the individual is too often in a nursing facility, may have good days and bad days, so prosecution is very difficult. If the staff attorney was here from Fairfax County, who had most recently done a case, there were, I believe, I know the amount of money involved was $300,000. I believe there were 6, maybe 10 contractors that were involved in the case, and they were able to get suspended sentences knowing darn well that there would be a re-violation, and 3 of them are serving prison time now. But it takes a lot of aggressive actions. So several days before Christmas, the attorneys and Commonwealth Attorney Morrow and I sat down and we storm-brained all the things that might help them get a hook to try to deter this activity. So House Bill 2773 contains 3 of those things that they felt would help substantially. The first item in the bill is multi-jurisdictional grand juries. These people operate between jurisdictions very readily. And if you look on page 1 of either the substitute or of the bill as it was introduced, you will see that we're now, by adding section DD, we are now starting to repeat the alphabet in a number of different things that are taken up in multi-jurisdictional grand juries. And this is certainly in that same category as people move from one jurisdiction to another in this predatory behavior. And the code sections that would be covered are code sections 18.2178, which is obtaining money or signature by false pretense, the 178.1 that I referred to that deals with financial exploitation of mentally incapacitated persons, and then also adding 18.200.1, which is failure to perform promise for construction in return for advances. So those would be the 3 items that would become part of a multi-jurisdictional grand jury. If before taking up the middle section, which is the area which has been amended, I would draw your attention to the 3rd item that this bill does, which is to put this behavior under the Consumer Protection Act. So again, you're looking at multiple offenses, being able to go after that kind of multiple activity on a civil penalty, but again, it is particularly appropriate when it comes to multi-jurisdictional grand jury looking at this. And in saying that, I would bring to the committee's attention that again, you see a very, very long list of things that can be taken up under the Consumer Protection Act. There is something from 18.2, and that is a pyramid scheme. So since there's one thing that is taken from 18.2, it is appropriate then to also add this activity under that. And then finally, the 3rd thing that 2073 does is allow a civil forfeiture of any vehicles unknowingly used by the owner thereof in this activity. And the substitute that you have before you at the request of the Commonwealth Attorneys Association removes the necessity to get a conviction, and also at the request of state police changes the reference to sheriff to simply be to secure the property rather than having the specificity of language that law enforcement shall secure the property that they have taken. And I have been informed by counsel that not having that provision is in civil forfeiture sometimes, sometimes not, and so this conforms again at the request of the Commonwealth Attorneys Association because of the difficulty in conviction of removing that provision from this bill. So that is the bill.
Delegate Alpo and Gilbert.
I'd like to propose an amendment to remove from the civil forfeiture of a motor vehicle the 18.2-200.1, which is failure to promise or perform construction, and here's why. I've had a couple of these cases. Almost always, the defendant is a contractor, say a siding contractor, gets somebody to sign up, they give a deposit, he doesn't get paid by somebody else. Now he doesn't have the money to perform the work. He gets the letter saying that you have performed, he can't pay, they file charges. What this says is at the time of the charge, they take your car. So a year and a half later, when you go to court, and if you can convince a jury that at the time you did it, you really intended on performing the work, and you win, You've already lost, because now you're out of business, because you had no car for a year and a half.
It was-
Second. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the patron what she thinks?
Sure.
I think that would be perfectly in line with the intent of the legislation. That
Okay.
this is not the
Now, we're gonna have
explicit behavior.
More controversial issue here, so,
What just happened?
well, we just amended.
He was asking a question while
I was
she
responding.
answered.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
but did we vote?
I thought we voted.
I don't know that we did. We did not vote.
We did not.
See, he didn't think we voted because he was talking order.
Yeah, so the motion has been made to strike out 18.2.200.1. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we have one. Is that not the one you want to
Yeah, you
strike?
say strike, I just want to strike out of the forfeiture section.
Strike.
Only.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Delegate Gilbert, you were up.
This is an elbow observation. When are we gonna just say that you can investigate any crime in a multi-jurisdictional grand jury? Do you have that bill this year, or did we talk about it?
Talked about it occasionally, we never have.
Why don't we do that finally? Make a note.
That'd be a good note. For somebody.
Make a note.
Okay, we're gonna move, so, anybody have any other questions for the patron? All right, yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members. Patricia Watson, Commonwealth Attorney in Emporia, Greensville. I'm here on behalf of BACA. We do support Delegate Watts' bills, all of them kind of grouped together. I can tell Delegate Watts that Mr. Morrow did contact us this morning and tell us to please be here. And just so the members understand, these, and this is happening in Greensville, so I do feel very comfortable in speaking on it. It actually happened to my grandmother, so I feel very comfortable in speaking on it. What these groups are doing is going door to door and doing very forceful sales pitches. And by the time the person who's paid them figures it out, they're long gone. But the extreme importance of the multi-jurisdictional grand jury is because they're moving fast, and they're going from Emporia to Greensville to Sussex to Southampton in a very short order of time, and it would just be so much easier to do it in one place than trying to do it in each different jurisdiction. By the time we catch them, they've gone on and done something somewhere else. So again, we are in support of that.
Okay. Any other member of the public like to be heard? All right, so Delegate Watts, there's an issue, and I want to raise it before we start voting on it, just in case you wanted to do something before we start voting, which would be, as you know, there's some pretty strong feelings about the forfeiture provision that doesn't come subsequent to a conviction.
Yeah, my guys like criminals keeping low profits.
I sure wish, well, that I'm warning you that your time just do this. We haven't taken any votes. I don't know what the votes would be. I do know that measures to say you can't do that have passed the subcommittee, the committee, and the full House. So what is not a controversial issue at all, I think the other two parts of this, as a freestanding measure, that would clearly not pass the House. You tie it to some other things, one or two things will happen. Either it'll sort of drag it all along with much more gnashing of teeth, or it'll kill the whole thing. And I don't know where this is headed. I'm just saying that if you hadn't thought along those lines, just we're about to start doing big amendments, and before I do that, I'm sort of offering you a chance if you want to change anything before we do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly appreciate the friendly counsel. It is exactly the discussion that I had with Ray Morrow and his staff, knowing very much the history on the civil forfeiture. But again, as the package, as he looked upon it, at the difficulty of prosecuting, the difficulty of discouraging this activity, that he wanted very much to keep it in as an important tool in being able to break into the door-to-door. And we do have a bill that is before another, actually it's a lockbox bill, which talks about practicing contracting without a license, that these itinerant individuals who are going in and saying you've got black mold, you've got flashing problems on your roof, etc. That vehicle is basically the modus operandi of how they move from door to door. And so this is why the Commonwealth's, at least Ray Morrow and I assume the Commonwealth's attorney and their support felt it was an important tool. I can only hope that with your warning that if it ever is risking going down because that's in it, then I have the opportunity to amend it out rather than not have it. But it's extremely important tool to have in there as what they need to go after this activity.
I don't tell people how to advocate for their bills. I'm giving you said warning right now. The next step is, we're gonna start amending. And after the amendments are done, the members of this panel are gonna have to start voting. I'm just saying that it contains something that was so poisonous to more than 51 delegates that the Cole bill passed the House. Okay, all right, so,
It just says you have to be convicted first.
oh, well, this does not require your conviction to lose the car. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion.
Do you want to take that out? You're taking that out.
I don't know, I will move that we remove this section. Now, if we do that, I'm talking about removing the changes. If the current law requires a conviction, I don't have any problem adding these to the section under which you must convict. What I'm saying, this is all new code section, this is all new language. I understand, what I'm saying would be, I don't mind adding it if it's substantive. If it's subsequent to a conviction, I don't mind. I'm saying that if,
You would reinsert subsection B as appropriate amendment from the original bill.
I think your views require such a reason to take out.
I guess so. I mean, if the language, I'm not a savant on the forfeiture, so if you have a way that it was written out before, I'm happy to redo it that way rather than simply striking it. So I don't mind that. Okay. So what I need to do is move that we remove this paragraph and add in paragraph B. No, just add in paragraph B.
Add paragraph B.
I see.
You reinsert it so that
Now, let me ask Kelly Valvo, you were worried about contractors losing their stuff when there hadn't been a conviction. If we go back to a conviction, you have any objection to that? Well, your problem with that, I don't know. Okay, all right, so then we will simply actually go back to the original language because we don't mind them losing their trucks if they have used the truck and have been convicted. Okay, all right, so that is my motion to go back to the original language, which would require a conviction for the forfeiture of the items. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, the ayes have it. The original language is important.
I think the Commonwealth's attorneys need to speak to this. This is my dilemma.
You'll never get a conviction. So it's crap forever.
Happens all the time.
Well, asset forfeiture as it stands, you do not have to have a criminal conviction to do an asset forfeiture. And at least in my experience with the drug cases that we handle, that
Some do, some don't.
it
This is,
ties, we do not want to tie a civil forfeiture to the criminal
now you agree,
penalty beyond a reasonable
you all
doubt.
disagree with us. The majority of the House does not agree with you. Yeah, that's the lay of the land here, nor do probably a majority of this panel. And there should have been two separate bills, but then it never would have gotten, we would have just had what just happened in that paragraph.
Right.
So, okay,
Thank you.
we can certainly retake the vote if that is changed in one way.
Because other previous wants to clutter it up, she may not want to defend that.
We just voted to take it out, and I was told
But
that
you voted to include the criminal conviction.
oh, right, we can take it out altogether.
That's what I'm saying. That shit should be up to voters.
Well, I think that the Commonwealth's attorneys, do you want to go for civil forfeiture at all, or you, only if you have to do?
We've told you, the panel just voted. The panel is willing to go so far as to allow forfeiture when there's a conviction. If you don't want to bother with that at all, that's fine.
Okay, just, which is the whole goal, making it more difficult for you to do it, okay. So they, yes, we will just leave it in as amended. Again, making sure that we have this, the change that state police wanted, law enforcement rather than reference to sheriffs, as you can see there on the line that I gave you.
Is that, do we have to amend the amendment? Okay, okay, that's fine, that's easy.
Motion to remove all forfeitures.
All right, so Dave, do you know what she means? Okay. Yeah, you good? All in favor of adding, you said state police?
Well,
Yeah, it's
the
language
language that
from
was
state
requested by state
Right, I'm
police
sorry.
would say that on line 73, after criminal offense and strike the rest of line 73.
Delivered to the sheriff of the county or city.
Secured until final adjudication.
Delivered to the sheriff, that's fine. Seized by any law enforcement officer arresting the operator of such vehicle for criminal offense and delivered to the sheriff of the county or city. Well, David, then your issue's still back. Well, that's what forfeiture does. You seize it, and then you hold it, and then you get it at the end.
Oh.
That's what forfeiture is.
I've never done a forfeiture case on that.
Mr. Chairman, in practice, the cases are usually held in abeyance if someone contests the forfeiture. So the practice usually is that if there is simply, once upon being given civil notice, contests the forfeiture, the circuit court will set it aside or put it in abeyance until the end of the criminal case. So Virginia's civil forfeiture law is not nearly as broad and as extensive as the federal. And very few jurisdictions in Virginia, well, correct, I don't want to say, most jurisdictions in Virginia don't take advantage of the federal, but many take advantage of the state.
Wait down this part.
And this is the issue with forfeiture, and this is where,
To me, that it's a super great bill if you got this into the grand jury, multi-jurisdictional grand jury.
Vivian, don't you have a separate bill you want to look at as forfeiture?
Then, well, again, what I want to make sure of is that even with us concerned about forfeiture, state police are concerned that there is the language that says delivered to the sheriff of the county or city in which the offense occurred, and that's the language that caused them heartburn, and they just wanted to have it to be secured until, and the wording was final adjudication. Now, if that different term rather than final adjudication gets where Delegate Elba wants to go, that would be the direction.
Oh, security, that's fine.
say again? Yeah, that's fine,
Mr. Chairman, this may be the only forfeiture that I'm aware of that lets you forfeit vehicles for misdemeanor convictions. It makes a distinction in the code section of 178, 178. They all have misdemeanor options. And so you're going to catch up people who, went to Lowe's and took the roll of cable off the counter and walked it over.
As Delegate Klein said, I think we'll just take out the whole forfeiture provision.
Motion is made and seconded to take out line 68 through 75 for forfeiture provision. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, okay.
Thank you for your patience.
Well, wait, important. So, any reason this has to go upstairs?
This does not.
Okay.
Oh, I
And
have
putting
another
this-
part of the package is in the lockbox, but that's
And
not
then
this.
I'd ask the council, putting the part into the consumer protection, it's not really a criminal aspect, but what does that do for you? What is it, attorney's fees, treble damages or something
group action, you can take more than one.
Okay. All in favor of supporting the bill as multiple times amended, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay. Now we watch, you have several others, its
Yes.
titles are kind of
With
the
that
same.
action, you can strike 2334 and 2333.
Okay, so there's a patron's request, we will go to them individually. I'll move, motion to strike House Bill 2333, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay.
Which leaves
Wait,
2375.
we gotta get that one. Patrons, I don't know if we can strike the block. Patrons request, we will strike 2334, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay. And then 2375, is that similar?
No, it is a different subject matter. And again, if I may introduce this by, again, citing Commonwealth Attorney Law. This was his great idea, but we've modified it a little bit. And as we discussed trespass, I think this is actually something that gives us a good starting point for looking at this bill. You've seen on the doors, no soliciting. And that no soliciting sign, if you look at the code as far as case law on no trespass, it always deals with physical presence on the property, but it doesn't deal with the act of soliciting. And also, so what, as Ray Morrow and I talked about this, we're basically looking to treat no soliciting sign the same way you would treat a no hunting sign. You're not saying the person can't come on the property, but you're saying the person cannot solicit if you have a sign that is clearly visible that says no soliciting. And so that creates a class 1 misdemeanor for someone who solicits, and I do bring to your attention that the word solicit does involve, as you see on line 19, to make a home solicitation sale. It does not include when you knock door to door and are soliciting someone's vote.
Oh,
Also,
God,
you
make that
will-
illegal so I don't have to do it?
And you will also see the references to this, we have picked up the language in C that is already in the code as far as an ongoing relationship with a contractor. That is in the telephone solicitation statute, and then we've also excluded those things that are excluded under the Solicitation of Contributions Act. So if you're selling Girl Scout cookies, this is also not picked up as it hasn't been in the code. And finally, I would say that this bill was drafted not by our attorney, Mr. Cotter, but was drafted by someone who's more familiar with the community property. So you have an adequate definition for at least my purposes that a dwelling unit is anything, and I've lost my definition of it, but it's a dwelling unit means a structure or part of a structure that is used as a home or residence by one or more persons who maintain a household, including but not limited to a manufactured home, and that's 55-248.4. So by having the reference to community property, you would also be including perhaps lobbies and other types of area, but the real heart of it is in that definition of dwelling unit.
I've got some questions for council. I mean, this is occasionally brought to my attention, so I've had a chance to think about this and never been able to be successful. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of other times that we can keep you off the property. We can build a brick wall. We can say no trespassing. You just can't come. What examples do we have that you can put up a sign that says you can't do certain things here? And if you do, my remedy is not to say you gotta go, because we've had all those issues with restaurants and guns.
The governor's executive order on firearms.
I understand, and we turned out the answer was not to arrest you for trespassing, the answer was to kick you out. And you can still do that here. You can say, I said off my porch, which I've had people tell me when I'm doing my door-to-door, and I go off the porch. What other, Mrs. Chief, you mentioned hunting, is there anything else?
I think it's just hunting. Yeah, I think it's just hunting.
I mean, I
Other than
don't
no-
like being bothered at home, but I've got a say, the remedy historically is to say no trespassing, you can't come, you just can't come. To say you can come on for certain purposes but not others, you can say certain things at the door, halfway through your pitch, you can realize and stop, changes it from just annoying to a crime. I'm open, calls, if anybody else have any questions for the patron? All right, calls,
Again, Chairman, Tricia Watson, Commonwealth Attorney for Employee Agrees with you on behalf of VACA, and we support the bill, and
you want to prosecute these? That's what we mean.
yeah, I mean, yes, because I think the intent is,
You gotta prove that the nature of that they both knew it was a residential property pursuant to the Property Owners Association Act, the dwelling units as that term is defined in 55-248.4. Do you know what that definition is?
I do now, because that's what you just read.
I certainly don't. No, I'm not being, I've tried this very bill, and I've knocked it around with Cotter, I think, over the years, and I just never been able to come up with
I
something.
think it's a practical, you're gonna have to boil it into a practical, more common sense type application when you get to prosecute it. If you walk up to a home and it looks like a home and people are living there and there's no solicitation sign at the front, then we're,
It's a crime.
no, it's not a crime.
No, that's what this makes it. This makes it a class one misdemeanor.
It's a crime when you go to the door and try to solicit. It's not a crime to walk up. It's not a crime to knock on the door and speak. It's not a crime to sell Girl Scout cookies, evidently. But
All right, I wanna sell you a car. I've got a car for $1,000. Guilty. Right? And it is.
that would be our argument.
My car broke down. I need some gas.
That's not a solicitation.
I need $1 to buy some gas.
I still don't think it's and I don't think it's a solicitation as far as I'm selling you something. I'm begging, I might be pandering.
I'll give you this watch for $5 for gas. I mean,
With that, the intent is to keep these people from going up
as annoying as could be, I mean, I don't.
to people and doing a pitch that is impossible to say no to. And I'm married to a car salesman, so I know. But that is the intent, because what happens when these people come up and say, you need more gravel in your driveway, and this is what I'm gonna do, and they've done a whole pitching, and you have twisted it so that the person says, okay, before they know what they're doing. And so it puts people who have elderly relatives at ease. If we can put a sign at their door that says no solicitation, that we might have some remedy for those that solicit.
I guess I come back to this issue of civil trespass versus criminal trespass. You can't accidentally criminal trespass. I'm just saying, you can't accidentally criminally trespass. If I go to the wrong house and it's wrong, if I have a border dispute, there's a Supreme Court case where I'm wrong, I'm on the wrong side of the line, but I thought I was on the right side, I can be sued, I can be sued for damages, and you can't just put me in jail for a good faith mistake.
I don't think you can accidentally go up and solicit when there's a sign that says no solicit.
Oh, you're right, but that's not the issue. The issue is, do you know, when we pass this on July 1st, everybody who does that is presumed to know that it is not annoying or irritating, that it's criminal to have done it. I don't want to dominate this part. Try part of this, I don't know. Anybody else in the public like to hear of this? That was Alan.
So we're sitting here trying to figure out where the Girl Scout cookie and the politician and the high school band who wants money for their uniforms exemption is.
Those are all in the solicitation contributions as referenced on
Yes, so we're going through that right now, but we can't seem to find exemptions. Is 57-60. The following persons
exempt from registration requirements.
Politicians are already accepted under case law.
Yeah. Well, just because you're exempted from registration doesn't mean you're exempted.
And I guess what they said, educational institutions, person requesting contributions from individuals specified, charitable organizations, non-intended assessment received from the county, actually raised.
The phraseology of this bill says except as may be permissible under the Solicitation Act. So as that act permits all the things that you're just citing, this says that all those things that are permissible will not be picked up on this act. It's an exception.
It is 10:06, I'm sort of taking the temperature down. I don't want to be the only one speaking, but like I said, I'm sympathetic so far that I even tried to draft it, and I was never able to make it work, but I'm not always successful with things. So let's take a temperature of motion, or I will entertain a motion of any sort just to move it forward. Or I'll make a motion to table, just to move it.
But that's going to be,
I'm sorry?
table is going to be.
Well, I'm trying not to do that. So I said, let's, okay. So the motion is made and seconded to report.
Okay.
Now,
The conversation going.
okay, that's fine. And then,
I think that
cut off any debate, we're not in any hurry with
was
this.
the last word.
Can we go by and see what the problem is with this language? Because
I don't think it's fixable. I don't think your language is the problem. I think that your idea is the problem. You're trying to come up with something. You're
It's
trying
his
to,
idea too.
oh, I love this idea. No, I'm trying to say, if it's workable, you're trying to criminalize something that's, I don't think it's going to be very, I think it's, to get the elbow rule of very easy to criminalize the one guy you're thinking of, very hard not to get a bunch of other people. And we now have 2 other statutes you'll have to reference every single time and assume that the defendant has also similarly referenced both the Solicitation of Contributions Act and the Property Owners Association Act. I can't think of a criminal statute that's even remotely like this. Yes, sir. Delegate Klein.
Well, we've got the fraud statutes on the back end, and I understand you're trying to prevent that type of, it's not even fraud, you're just trying to prevent pressure selling, which I understand, but I don't know that the punishment fits the crime here. I think you're dealing with situations more like the do not call list, where it's annoying, it's, you might get a call that you don't want that might actually pressure you to buy something that you just want to hang up on or shut the door on. But at the end of the day, what do you get for calling somebody who's on the do not call list? You probably get a fine, not jail time. So I'm inclined to just not go there.
Mr. Chairman, can, may I please take this by and try to work on these ideas? Again, if I may, in response, say the concept is trying to say that if you can say no hunting on the property, a specific activity that on my property you can't do, it's not trespassing, it's no hunting, trying to draw that same parallel. So I'd like very much to take all of these concerns and see if we can address it in language and perhaps just simplify, as I indicated initially, it's a dwelling unit, and that's something that we have worked with a great deal.
Okay, I mean, obviously the courtesy, we have to go back to the I don't want to mislead you that we got a plan in our heads and we can figure out the magic we'll be happy to look for. I just don't think it's, okay. Gosh, that is literally the end of the document, so we did